Welcome back, folks, to another week of Mount & Blade Bannerlord news updates. For this week, we'll be talking about the previous blog posts, the first being the party speed in Bannerlord, as well as the next one being the multiplayer PvP aspect. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Starting with the party speed, the blog begins as follows. As an enterprising adventurer in Bannerlord, sometimes it feels like your party never goes fast enough. Those pesky step bandits that are pursuing you keep closing up, or the queen that was expecting that quest to be finished yesterday, and all that butter you're carrying to the market that isn't getting any fresher. You need to go faster, but have no worry because that's what we'll be discussing today. In previous Mount & Blade games, they already had a detailed system for determining party speed that took things into account like the party size, mounted units, carried goods, prisoners, the pathfinding skill of your character, morale and terrain, etc. This allowed for some gameplay options like dropping your loot or releasing your prisoners to escape pursuit. Of course, in Bannerlord, we don't want to be feeling any less stressed about our speed, so they decided to come up with a system that takes into account all of these factors, plus some other ones we need to worry about. Alongside adding more detail, they also want to make the mechanics a bit more transparent, since the game can bring your party to a crawl, but it should be at least able to explain why. The previous titles were a bit lacking in the transparency department, they say, since they didn't share much beyond the end result. For Bannerlord, they decided to include the player party speed on the info bar, so that you could also check it there at your leisure. And when you mouse over it, a tooltip will appear showcasing the breakdown contributing to the final speed. The tooltip itself may look like a small addition, but it showcases one of their most favorite new features called the explain numbers. These are useful for not only doing arithmetic as usual, but can also explain how a particular result was obtained. This system is used for calculating almost all in-game stats and makes it trivial to put detailed tooltips all over the place, as well as removing the potential for errors and the stat breakup. So moving on to Bannerlord's details of speed calculation, this game continues the Warband tradition, which can be summed up as 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Your cavalry, mounted on fine steeds, will pull you forward, while your infantry will sluggishly slow you down. Fortunately, we can now mitigate that to some degree by carrying additional horses in our inventories. When any number of spare mounts are available, the game will consider the number of your footmen as mounted infantry, which sounds awesome, by the way. Mounted infantry is considered halfway between cavalry and regular infantry speed since they aren't proficient riders. I can't wait to completely stack my inventory with horses in that case. While this makeup of your party is important, its size is also a concern. As before, the more soldiers you have, the slower you are. It gives the game a balance so that the weaker parties can typically outrun stronger foes, alongside being realistic since more people means more traffic jams. Another factor to watch out for is the cargo. Although it does only have a marginal effect on your speed as long as your party is below capacity, but if you're stacked up cargo-wise, it could easily bring your party speeds to a crawl. Fortunately, you can just increase your party's capacity by having pack animals too. The ones listed are mules, sumpter horses, and pack camels, or just by having more men may do the trick as well. And finally, in accordance with 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, cows and other kinds of livestock aren't counted as cargo as they helpfully carry themselves. However, having a lot of horses and other animals in your party may sound nice. There will also be what's called a herd effect in play. Having an excess amount of horses and other animals in your party will have a detrimental effect, due to the game assuming your troops will have a hard time herding all those animals. The last thing to mention is that if you're in someone else's army, it is still calculated the same way, except with the entire army being regarded as one big party. This means parties in an army not only combine strength, but also pool their resources such as spare horses, inventory capacity, etc. Lots of good detail to know about here. I'm actually really excited to see more on this one. And with that, on to the next topic. For the next topic, we'll be going into the multiplayer skirmish mode. This blog post goes into detail about the multiplayer aspect of PvP, and most notably the skirmish mode, which is a new multiplayer game mode for the upcoming Bannerlord. It starts off by going into a brief history of the Mount & Blade multiplayer. The previous title, being Warband, was the first to feature multiplayer. It was a highly recommended feature from the original Mount & Blade fans, and with Bannerlord multiplayer, they wanted to build upon that strong foundation and offer a deeply engaging multiplayer experience that is easy to pick up. And so they have begun working on multiple multiplayer modes. Skirmish is specifically 6v6 player v player mode. There is no bots, just your combat skill and your fellow teammates. The idea behind the skirmish design is asymmetry. Most multiplayer games strive to have a well-balanced mix of classes with no single dominant. They considered going this route early on, but decided this wouldn't work at all, especially in a game that aims to represent medieval battles where armored knights mounted on destriers would share the field with peasants with pitchforks. Of course, there were ways to nerf the stronger classes, making knights more sluggish or giving them reduced damage for instance, but they say it would be kind of unrealistic / immersion breaking, and so go against the spirit of their game. The solution they found was to have a game mode with limited spawns, where the number of spawns you can have depends on the quality of your class choices. To facilitate this, they introduced a point system. Players start with a set amount of points that they can spend to select a class for each spawn during the round. Higher tier troops with better equipment cost more, which limits the number of times they can be selected each player round, whereas lower tier troops are much cheaper, giving players the option of an additional 1 or 2 spawns for the round. These can also be carried over in the next round if unused in the current to give you better options tactic-wise. Another concern of theirs was introducing tactical depth while maintaining a fast-paced game. To this end, they decided to adapt the system they developed for Captain Mode, which is the battle for 3 capture points on the map, while using the morale system as a score. Each capture point holds a flag that can be capped and controlled by one team. The morale of that team holding fewer flags will start decaying, and if it goes down entirely, they will lose the match. Throughout the course of the battle, 2 flags are removed. There is an actual mechanic which determines which flags are removed, which forces the climax of a battle to be held at a single location. With these mechanics paired with limited spawns, they're hoping to create an engaging, intense multiplayer experience. Each map featured in Skirmish has also been specifically made for this game mode, and with a set number of players in mind. Spawn points, flags, and paths between them are all measured and placed in the way that ensures the players can navigate the map with ease and jump into the action quickly. Careful placement of obstacles in the maps ensures that no single class is dominant in all situations. But of course, Skirmish mode, like other multiplayer modes, are still under development, and there's still a lot of work needed to fine-tune and balance everything. To do this more effectively, they're planning to carry out a closed multiplayer beta. Oh my god, I can't believe I just read that. Where they're hoping to get feedback from the community. Alright, have the cryo chambers on standby and ready to unfreeze because our moment might be coming. Getting back to it, they realized that the overview of the skirmish raised a lot of questions about the multiplayer in general, but they said that they will discuss more about the multiplayer in future blogs, including Bannerlord's new class system, as well as the matchmaking, additional game modes, and of course, details about the upcoming closed beta. And with that, folks, that is all the news we have for today. Thank you all so much for watching though, and remember to stay frosty out there because it's getting intense. And farewell. Let's go close beta, finally!